Good evening, good morning, welcome to Penn State World Campus Public Policy 483. And I just want to again mention that I'm going to probably do these every 2 weeks or so. These face-to-face YouTube videos, so you can just again get a little bit more of an interactive experience. I want to start off just by apologizing. I think there's a little bit of confusion with the last assignment, the one that was due this past Sunday, but I think most people, as I perused through it, got it right. I just wanted you to go through the chain of command so you knew if you were in the Department of Homeland Security, if you were the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, if you were Treasury Secretary, who your authorities were, who you'd report to. And I think this past week with the Comey issue and the independence of the judiciary, of particularly the Attorney General, I think this actually class imitated life a bit, where yes, you have a chain of command, but there's a little bit more to it, especially when you're talking about the judiciary, than a line and block chart. So I want to bring that up. I also want to talk current events. We've had the Manchester bombing, and we had the London bombing last week, or London attacks last week. And the one thing I will say is I think the London I think they respond to terrorism a little bit better. If the purpose of terrorism is to inspire fear and is to make sure that you're impacted, that you can't go about your day-to-day life, I think London did the best job, where they don't allow terrorism to affect their way of life. I may contrast that with the United States, where there's incentives to, I don't want to say overreact, but show that terrorism has affected us in a profound way. So that's something to think about. The other thing to think about, again, we're getting more information both on the Manchester and the London attacks. There's always going to be this gap between people who are known and who are on the radar and what we can do to arrest them. There's going to be that space, and I'm speaking on the 1-year anniversary of the Orlando shooting, and he was a known entity. He was on the radar of our local law enforcement. But just because he was on the radar, and just because even sometimes they're watch listed, there's nothing they can do to prevent him from walking in to a store, buying a gun, and opening fire on a nightclub, or in London, apparently procuring bomb-making material. So that is a point of concern, and maybe there's nothing we can do in a free democracy to stop issues like that. So just keep in mind, again, how do we triage these people when they're watch listed, when they're on the radar, when they're known to law enforcement? Just like I mentioned last week, it's not like Crockett and Tubbs, where two people can monitor a terrorist 24 hours a day, or a suspected terrorist. There's only so many resources out there. There's only so many people that you can monitor. And there are literally hundreds of thousands of people, even in the United States, that are on these websites that show some element of radicalization that in hindsight looks bad, but in the scheme of the moment or at the time, doesn't separate yourself from the hundreds of thousands of people that surf jihadist websites, or even surf right-wing extremist websites. So there's, I'll leave it up to you to think how we can think through this issue and how we can solve this policy problem. So I just wanted to just wrap it up with statutory members of the NSC. That's lesson 5. And again, your assignment is 5 issues of Homeland Security, and I give you plenty of room to discuss it. I just discussed one, the gap between people on the radar and what you can do to arrest people. But what I ask is that you be a little bit more specific. Don't just say border issues. Say something like the potential for infiltration through our southern border. Give issues that later on you could provide solid recommendations for it. Don't just give me generic one over the top issues. And then the statutory members of the NSC, this is going to become important as we get into our projects, but the NSC, the National Security Council, was there to, and you read about this in your book, to ensure that there's not just a military solution to national security issues, that national security requires the integration of soft power, State Department, Treasury, or financial tools. It's not just people who wear uniforms and people who are in the armed services. So that's, as you go through the NSC readings, just think about that in the back of your head. How are we integrating all aspects of national power to solve our problems or solve our national security issues? So what I want to wrap up with is I know there's about 30 people in this class, and I think most are from the military. What I want to do is later on in the semester is do a jobs talk. And that is something like this where I get on one of our interfaces, Adobe Connect or Google Hangouts or something, and I talk about getting a job in the intelligence community, how to get a job in the federal government, where the jobs are available, what mistakes people make, how to do a job interview. If you're interested in that, please let me know and acknowledge this YouTube video and acknowledge that you're interested in that, so I know how many people would be interested in something like that and what you're interested in, so I can gear the jobs talk towards that. I know a lot of people are here for this education and for the material that you learn, but I know most people here are maybe a little bit older and they want to use this to advance their careers, advance in the workforce, or get a new job. So if you're interested in a job talk and what my thoughts based on my 20 some odd years of experience, please let me know. And I look forward to grading your papers. And if there's any issues, please shoot me a note.